Book 1, Chapter 2. A singular favor granted by the Most High to the Blessed Virgin Mary upon her arrival at the temple. When the divine child Mary, having bid farewell to her parents, remained in the temple to live there, her teacher assigned her a place among the other virgins. These were like small alcoves or private rooms, each designated for one of the young maidens. The Princess of Heaven immediately prostrated herself upon the ground, and, recognizing that it was holy temple ground, she kissed it and adored the Lord, giving thanks for this new blessing. She also expressed gratitude to the very earth itself for receiving her and for sustaining her, acknowledging her unworthiness to stand upon it and to dwell within that sacred place. She then turned to her holy guardian angels and spoke to them, saying, "Heavenly princes, messengers of the Most High, my faithful friends and companions, I implore you with all the affection of my soul to serve as vigilant sentinels over me in this holy temple of my Lord. Warn me of anything I must do. Teach me and guide me as my masters and my constant compass, so that I may always fulfill the perfect will of the Most High, bring joy to the holy priests, and obey my teacher and companions." She then addressed the 12 angels in particular, those mentioned earlier as the 12 of the Apocalypse, cf. Supra 202 and 273, and said to them, "And you, my messengers, if the Most High permits, I ask that you go to console my holy parents in their affliction and solitude." The 12 angels obeyed their queen, departing on their mission, while the remaining angels stayed with her in divine colloquies. At that moment she felt a superior force moving her powerfully yet gently, elevating and spiritualizing her in an ardent ecstasy. The Most High then commanded the seraphim who attended her to illuminate her most holy soul and prepare her for what was to come. At once she was granted a divine illumination, a light and quality that further perfected and disposed her faculties to receive the manifestation that was about to be revealed to her. With this preparation, and accompanied by all her holy guardian angels and many more, the divine child, clothed in a radiant cloud, was taken in both body and soul to the empyrean heaven. There she was received with supreme benevolence and delight by the most holy Trinity. She prostrated herself before the all-powerful and supreme Lord, as she had done in her previous visions, and adored him with the deepest humility and reverence. Then she was further illuminated with another divine light, by which she beheld the divinity in an intuitive and direct vision, this being the second time she was granted such a vision, at only 3 years of age. No sense nor tongue can adequately express the effects of this vision and the soul's participation in the divine essence. The Eternal Father addressed the future mother of his Son, saying, "My dove, my beloved one, I wish you to see the treasures of my immutable being, my infinite perfections, and the hidden gifts I have reserved for the souls whom I have chosen as heirs of my glory, souls who will be redeemed by the blood of the Lamb who is to die for them. Know, my daughter, how generous I am to my creatures who know and love me, how true I am in my words, how faithful in my promises, how powerful and admirable in my works. Take heed, my spouse, for it is an infallible truth that whoever follows me shall not walk in darkness. You, whom I have chosen, shall be a witness to the treasures I have prepared to exalt the humble, to reward the poor, to lift up the lowly, and to grant my recompense to all those, for my name's sake, suffer or labor upon the earth." The most holy child Mary, in this vision of the divinity, came to understand many other great mysteries, for the divine object is infinite. And though he had already manifested himself to her in this manner once before, there always remains an infinite amount yet to be communicated, bringing ever greater admiration and love to the soul that receives such a gift. She responded to the Lord, saying, "O Most High and Supreme, Eternal God, your greatness is incomprehensible, your mercy boundless, your treasures abundant, your mysteries ineffable, your promises faithful, your words true, and your works most perfect, for you, O Lord, are infinite and eternal in your being and in all your perfections. But what can my smallness do before the vastness of your greatness? I recognize my unworthiness even to look upon what you reveal to me, yet I am in need of your gaze upon me. In your presence, Lord, all creatures are reduced to nothingness. What, then, shall your servant do, who is but dust? Fulfill in me all your will and divine pleasure. And if in your eyes the trials and humiliations of mortals are so precious, if humility, patience, and meekness in suffering are such treasures and tokens of your love, then do not allow me, my beloved, to be deprived of so great a wealth. But as for the reward, grant it to your servants and friends, who will deserve it better than I, for I have yet to labor in your service, or fulfill what is pleasing to you. The Most High was greatly pleased with the petition of the divine child, and made known to her that he accepted her offering, granting her the privilege of laboring and suffering for his love throughout her life. However, at that moment, she did not yet understand the full extent or manner in which all these things would come to pass. The Princess of Heaven gave thanks for this immense favor, that she had been chosen to labor and suffer for the name and glory of the Lord. With fervent desire to accomplish this, she requested permission from His Majesty to make 4 vows: chastity, poverty, obedience, and perpetual enclosure in the temple where he had led her. To this petition the Lord responded, "My spouse, my chosen one, my thoughts surpass those of all creatures. At this moment you do not yet comprehend all that may come to pass in your life, nor will it be possible for you to fulfill all your fervent desires in the precise manner you now conceive them. I accept and wish you to make the vow of chastity, and I desire that you renounce all earthly riches. However, in regard to the other vows and their subjects, it is my will that you act in all things as if you had made them, to the extent that it is possible. Your desire shall be fulfilled in many other maidens, who, in the time of the law of grace, will follow you and serve me by making these same vows, living together in congregation. You shall be the mother of many daughters." The Most Holy Child then made the vow of chastity before the Lord, and though she did not bind herself by a vow to the others, she nonetheless renounced all attachment to earthly possessions and creatures. She resolved to obey all creatures for the love of God. In fulfilling these resolutions, she was more exact, fervent, and faithful than any who had ever made such vows or would ever do so. With this, the intuitive and clear vision of the divinity ceased, yet she was not immediately restored to the earth. Instead, she remained in another lower state of vision, still within the empyrean heaven. Thus, following her direct vision of the divinity, she was granted another series of imaginative visions. In this second imaginative vision, several seraphim, those closest to the Lord, approached her under his command and adorned her in the following manner. First, all her senses were illuminated with a divine light that filled them with grace and beauty. Then they clothed her in a tunic of inestimable radiance, girding her with a belt made of various brilliant and transparent stones of different colors. This belt, gleaming beyond human comprehension, symbolized the pure innocence and heroic virtues of her most holy soul. Next, they placed an invaluable necklace upon her, adorned with 3 great gems, symbols of the 3 highest and most excellent virtues: faith, hope, and charity. These jewels rested upon her chest, signifying their place as the foundation of all virtues within her. Afterward, the Holy Spirit himself placed 7 exquisitely beautiful rings upon her hands, as a testimony that he adorned her with his 7 gifts in their most eminent degree. Finally, over all these ornaments, the Most Holy Trinity placed upon her head an imperial crown made of precious, inestimable materials, thereby proclaiming her both their spouse and the Empress of Heaven. To confirm all of this, her luminous garment was embroidered with golden letters of the finest brilliance, inscribed with the words, "Mary, daughter of the Eternal Father, spouse of the Holy Spirit, and mother of the true light." However, the most humble virgin did not yet understand the full meaning of this last title, though the angels did, and they marveled in praise of the Creator as they witnessed such a wondrous and unprecedented event. In fulfillment of this celestial honor, the Most High commanded all the angelic spirits to turn their full attention to this divine moment. Then, from the throne of the Most Holy Trinity, a voice resounded, speaking to the Blessed Virgin, "Our spouse, our beloved one, and the chosen among all creatures, you shall be ours for all eternity. The angels shall serve you, and all nations and generations shall call you blessed." Thus adorned with the splendor of divinity, the most sovereign child was united in the most marvelous and solemn betrothal imaginable, even beyond the understanding of the highest cherubim and seraphim. The Most High accepted her as his singular and unique spouse, elevating her to the highest dignity that a pure creature could receive, to be the chosen vessel for his own divinity in the person of the Word. In her, he deposited all the treasures of grace that such an exalted role required. The most humble among the humble was utterly absorbed in an abyss of love and admiration at such favors and blessings. In the presence of the Lord, she spoke these words, "O supreme and incomprehensible majesty! Who am I that you should look upon me with such love? That you, the Almighty, should raise me up to so high a dignity, though I am but dust and ashes? Behold your handmaid, O Lord, do with me what you will. If it pleases you, let me suffer for your love. If it is your desire, let me serve you in obscurity and silence. I ask for no other reward than to fulfill your will, and to love you with all my heart." With this, the solemn betrothal between the Most High and the Most Blessed Virgin was consummated, a union so perfect, so divinely arranged, that it would never be surpassed in all eternity. "O Most High King and incomprehensible God," Mary exclaimed, "who are you, and who am I, that your divine condescension should look upon one who is but dust, unworthy of such mercies? In you, my Lord, as in a clear mirror, I see and know without deception the lowliness and nothingness of my being. I behold your immensity, and in contrast my own insignificance. In this knowledge, I am annihilated and undone with wonder that the infinite majesty would stoop to regard so humble a worm, one deserving only rejection and scorn among all creatures. O Lord, my only good, how magnified and glorified you shall be in this work! What astonishment you will cause among your angelic spirits, who know your infinite goodness, grandeur, and mercy, seeing how you lift the lowly from the dust, Psalm 113, verse 7, and exalt the poor to be seated among princes. I, my King and my Lord, accept you as my spouse and offer myself as your handmaid. My understanding shall recognize no other object, my memory shall hold no other image, my will shall pursue no other end nor desire apart from you, my supreme, true, and only good in love. My eyes shall not rise to gaze upon another creature, nor shall my faculties and senses attend to anything except what your majesty directs me toward. You alone, my beloved, shall be for your spouse, Cant 2:16, and she shall be for you alone, you who are immutable and eternal good." The Most High received with ineffable delight this acceptance made by the sovereign princess of the new Essel he had celebrated with her most holy soul. As the true spouse and lady of all creation, he placed into her hands all the treasures of his power and grace, and he commanded her to ask for whatever she desired, promising that nothing would be denied her. The most humble dove did so, and with a heart burning with charity, she petitioned the Lord that he would send his only begotten Son into the world for the salvation of mortals, that he would call all men to the true knowledge of his divinity, that he would increase his graces and gifts in her natural parents, Joachim and Anne, strengthening them in his love, that he would console and sustain the poor and afflicted in their trials, and for herself she asked only that the divine will be perfectly fulfilled in her. These were the most particular petitions that the newly espoused Mary presented to the most Holy Trinity at this moment. The angelic spirits, in admiration of the Most High, sang new hymns of praise, and with celestial music, those whom his majesty had appointed returned the holy child from the empyrean heaven to the place within the temple from which she had been taken. Eager to put into practice what she had promised before the Lord, Mary immediately went to her teacher and handed over everything her mother, St. Anne, had left for her necessities and comfort, even her books and clothing. She asked that these be distributed to the poor or disposed of in whatever way her teacher saw fit, and she humbly placed herself under her direction. Her teacher, the prophetess Anna, acting under divine inspiration, accepted and approved all that the beautiful child offered. She left Mary completely poor and without any possessions except for the clothing she wore. She resolved to care for her with special attention, as the most destitute and impoverished among the virgins, since all the others had their own small allowances for clothing and personal belongings. The wise teacher, having first consulted the high priest, then instructed the sweet child Mary on how she was to live in the temple. Through this act of complete renunciation and surrender, the queen and lady of all creatures remained alone, deprived of all earthly things and even of herself, reserving for herself nothing except her ardent love for the Lord and her own profound humility and self-abasement. I confess my utter ignorance, my unworthiness, and my insufficiency in attempting to explain such sovereign and hidden mysteries. If even the eloquent tongues of the wise and the knowledge and love of the highest cherubim and seraphim would prove inadequate to express them, what can a lowly and unworthy woman such as myself say? I recognize how I would offend the majesty of such venerable mysteries, were it not for obedience compelling me to speak. Yet even with this justification, I fear that I fail to grasp and explain the greater part of what has been revealed to me. Knowing and speaking only the least of the mysteries and events in this city of God, Mary most holy. Teaching of the most holy Virgin Mary. My daughter, among the great and ineffable favors I received throughout my life from the right hand of the Almighty, one of the greatest was what you have just come to know and write about. In the clear vision of the divinity and the incomprehensible being of the Most High, I came to understand hidden mysteries and sacraments, and in that divine adornment and espousal, I received incomparable gifts and graces. My soul experienced the sweetest and most divine effects. The desire I had to make the 4 vows of poverty, obedience, chastity, and enclosure was greatly pleasing to the Lord. Because of this desire, I merited that in the Church and under the law of grace, religious souls would be established in the practice of these same vows, as is now customary. That was the beginning of what religious do today, as the holy King David foretold in Psalm 44, verse 13, "Virgins shall be brought to the king after her." The Most High ordained that my desires would serve as the foundation of religious life in the evangelical law, and I fulfilled entirely and most perfectly everything I had promised before the Lord, as far as my state and life allowed. Never did I gaze upon the face of any man, not even upon my spouse, Saint Joseph, nor upon the angels when they appeared to me in human form. Instead, I saw and recognized them all in God. To no created or rational thing did I attach my affections, nor did I possess any human inclination or will of my own. I had no preference for yes or no, for I will or I will not, because in all things the Most High guided me, either by his direct will, or through the obedience I voluntarily rendered to those he placed over me. Do not be ignorant, my dearest daughter, that because religious life is sacred and ordained by the Most High to preserve the doctrine of Christian perfection and the perfect imitation of the most holy life of my Son, he is exceedingly indignant with religious souls who live forgetful of such a great benefit and so carelessly, more lax in their lives than many worldly people. For this reason, their judgment and punishment will be far more severe than that of those in the world. Likewise, the devil, as the ancient and cunning serpent, takes greater pains and employs greater cunning to tempt and overthrow religious men and women than he does with all the rest of mankind. When he succeeds in making a religious soul fall, the entire infernal council is engaged with greater urgency and strategy to ensure that they do not rise again through the remedies readily available in religious life, such as obedience, holy exercises, and frequent use of the sacraments. To prevent these remedies from bearing fruit, the enemy employs such an array of tactics and deceptions that it would be terrifying to comprehend them fully. One need only observe the behaviors and actions of a religious soul who seeks to justify her laxity, whether by excusing it with feigned reasoning, or, failing that, through disobedience, greater disorder, and graver faults. This is why it is of the utmost importance to be vigilant in the religious life, and to walk in the fear of the Lord, so that you may remain firm in his grace and grow in perfection every day. Take heed, then, my daughter, and fear the formidable danger that threatens religious souls. With the strength of divine grace, strive to rise above yourself, allowing no disordered affection or movement within your will. I desire that you work entirely to die to your passions and become spiritualized, so that, having extinguished everything earthly within you, you may ascend to an angelic state through your life and conduct. To fully bear the name of the spouse of Christ, you must go beyond the boundaries of human nature and enter into a divine state of being. Though you are but earth, you must become blessed earth, free from the thorns of passion, so that your abundant fruit may belong entirely to the Lord, who is its rightful owner. And if your spouse is the supreme and powerful Lord, the King of kings and the Lord of lords, then disdain to turn your eyes, and even more so, your heart, toward vile slaves, which are human creatures. Even the angels love and revere you because of your dignity as the spouse of the Most High. And if among mortals it is considered rash and brazen for a lowly man to cast his eyes upon the wife of a prince, what grave offense would it be to direct them toward the spouse of the celestial and almighty King? And would it not be an equal crime for her to accept and consent to such attentions? Understand and reflect deeply on the fact that the punishment for such sin is incomparably severe and terrible. I do not reveal it to your sight, lest your weakness should faint in terror at the knowledge of it. But let my teaching suffice for you, so that you may fulfill all that I command you and imitate me as a true disciple to the extent that your strength allows. Be diligent in instructing your religious sisters in this doctrine and in ensuring that they put it into practice. The disciple then responds with reverence, "My lady and most merciful queen, with joy in my soul I hear your most sweet words, full of spirit and life. I long to engrave them in the depths of my heart with the grace of your most holy Son, which I beg you to obtain for me. And if you grant me permission, I would speak in your presence as an ignorant disciple before her teacher and lady. Mother and my refuge, since you command me to fulfill the 4 vows of my profession, and though I am unworthy and lukewarm, I ardently desire to do so. I ask that you grant me a more abundant doctrine, that it may serve as my guide and instruction in the fulfillment of this sacred obligation, and the affection that you have now placed in my soul."